So we are going to start define morphology and how it's related to the field of linguistics. Morphology is the part of linguistics that deals with the study of words, their internal structure and partially their meanings. It is also interested in how the users of a given language understand complex words and invent new lexical items. It is also linked with the semantic as it deals with the meaning of words.
Morphemes are the smallest units that carry meaning or fulfill some grammatical function, the smallest part of word with independent meaning. And we have here some examples of English derivational morphemes. Number one is alcoholic, the second is exactly, the third is readable, and the final is friendship.
Word formation process is the means by which new words are produced either by modification of existing words or by complete innovation, which in turn become a part of the language. Coinage is the process as the way of creating the new word with referring to the most topical sources which are invented to the trade names for certain commercial products. Then they have become the general terms used in societies. For example, aspirin, nylon, Vaseline, and zipper. Borrowing is the process of creating a new word from words of other languages. Throughout its history, the English language has adopted a vast number of words from other languages. For example, croissant from French, dope from Dutch. Compounding is the process of creating a new word, joining two separate words into a single form to describe something new. For example, bookcase, doorknob, fingerprint. Blending process is the way of creating a new word with combining two separate forms of words to produce a new single term. Typically, blending process is accomplished by taking only the beginning of one word and joining it to the end of the other word. For example, to talk about the combined effects of smoke and fog, we can use the word small. Clipping is the process of reducing the elements of a word. This process occurs when a word of more than one syllable is reduced into a shorter form. As example, the word advertisement becomes ad, and the word brother becomes bro, or facsimile reduced to fax. Back formation is a type of reduction process by which a word of one type, for example noun, is reduced to form a word of another type, for example a verb. A good example of back formation is the process whereby the noun television first came into use and then the verb televise was created from it. Conversion is a process of changing the function of words. For example, the verb stand up changed into a noun when we say stand-up comedy. Acronym is the process of creating a new word with forming from the initial letters of a set of other words. For example, automatic teller machine becomes ATM. Derivation is the process as a way of creating a new word that accomplished by means of small bits of the English language. The ones added to the beginning of a word are called prefixes, and the other affixes added to the end of the word are called suffixes. For example, the word elements and, miss, press, full, and less, which appear in words such as unhappy, misinformation, prejudge, meaningful, careless, and so on. Multiple process is a way of creating a new word with more than one processes at work in a certain word. For example, the word waspish is coming from the word white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant, as acronym process because it is abbreviated into the initial letter wasp, and then it is added with the suffix -ish as in the derivation process.
Now let us see what are free and bound morphemes. There are two types of morphemes, free and bound morphemes. Free morpheme is a morpheme that can stand by itself as a single word, nouns, adjectives, verbs. For example, tour. Bound morpheme is a morpheme such as an or ed that cannot stand alone and must be attached to another form, for example, undressed. Affixes are bound morpheme in English. The base form to which affixes are attached in the formation of word is called stem. Bound stems in words such as receive, reduce, and repeat the elements receive, use, and repeat are not separate word forms and hence cannot be free morphemes. Free morphemes fall in two categories, lexical and functional. Lexical morpheme is a free morpheme that is content words such as a noun or a verb. They are an open class of words. We can add new ones to the language rather easily. Functional morpheme is a free morpheme that is used as a function word, such as a conjunction and or a preposition in. They are closed class of words. We almost never add new ones to the language. About derivation and morphemes, bound morphemes fall in two categories, derivational and inflectional. Derivational morpheme is a bound morpheme such as each used to make a new word of a different grammatical category, for example, voices, in contrast to an inflectional morpheme. Derivational morphemes include suffixes and prefixes. Suffixes such as the ish in foolish, the li in quickly, and the ment in payment. Prefixes such as re, pre, ex, mis, co, and. Inflectional morphemes, a bound morphemes used to indicate the grammatical function of a word, also called an inflection, for example, dogs, walker. Inflectional morphemes are not used to indicate aspects of the grammatical function of a word. English has only 8 inflectional morphemes, all suffixes. Noun plus s, verb plus s, plus ing plus ed plus n, an adjective plus er or plus est.
A morph is a simple phonetic representation of a morpheme and how we say them, and this is the smallest unit, cannot be further divided or analyzed. The first example is unthinkable, the second is box. Allomorphs are the variations of morphemes. They are different forms of the same morpheme or basic unit of meaning. There are a number of other morphological processes at work in a language like English, such as those involved in a range of allomorphs for the morpheme past tense. These include the common pattern in walk plus past tense that produce walked, and also the special pattern that takes go plus past tense and produces the regular past form went.
Now let me move to acronyms. Acronyms are new words formed from the initial letter of a set of words. These can be forms such as CD, compact disc, or VCR, video cassette record, where the pronunciation consists of saying each separate letter. More typically, acronyms are pronounced as a new single word, as in NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or UNESCO. Many acronyms have become everyday terms such as laser, light amplification by stimulate emission of radiation, radar, radio detecting and grounding, scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, and SIP, Sun Improvement Plant, CO. Names of for organizations are often designed to have their acronym represent an appropriate term, as in Mother Against Drunk Driving, MAD, and Women Against Rape, WORD. Some new acronyms come into general use so quickly that many speakers do not think of their component meaning.
George Jules described grammar as the process of describing the structure of phrases and sentences in such a way that we account for all the grammatical sequences in a language and rule out all the ungrammatical sequences. For example, we recognize that the phrase "the lucky boy is" a well-formed phrase in English, but the following two phrases are not all the well-formed. The first one is "boys the lucky," and the second is "lucky boys the." From these examples, we can see that English has strict rules for combining words into phrases. So, in order to be grammatical, this type of phrase must have the sequence article plus adjective plus noun, and no other sequence is possible.
In grammar, we need to identify the different grammatical units. They are meaningful elements which combine with each other in a structured pattern. Essentially, grammar is the system which organizes and controls these four meaning relationships. The types of grammatical units can be graded according to size of unit. They are sentences, clauses, phrases, words, and morphemes. A clause consists of one or more phrases. A phrase consists of one or more words. A word consists of one or more morphemes. Morphemes are parts of words, for example stems, prefixes, and suffixes. Grammatical units can be combined to form longer written text or spoken interaction, which is known as discourse.
Now we are going to talk about the four factors in which grammatical units are described. In general, grammatical units are described in terms of four factors: their structure, their syntactic role, their meaning, and the way they are used in discourse. A structure is the units can be described in terms of their internal structure. For example, words in terms of bases and affixes, phrases in terms of head and modifiers, and clause in terms of clause elements. Role units can be described in terms of their syntactic role. For example, a phrase can have the syntactic role of object in a clause. In November, Susie won those tickets. In this example, there are also other roles. Susie is the subject. In November is an adverbial. Meaning is the units can be described in terms of meaning. For example, adverbs, a class of words, can express information about time, place, and manner. Use or discourse function. Unit can be further described in terms of how they behave in discourse. This can include their use in different registers, their frequency in those registers, and the factors which influence their use in speech or in writing text. For example, pronouns like it, and they are often used to refer back to things mentioned early in the same discourse.
The notion of word is complex, and so it's useful to identify a number of slightly different things of words. We have orthographic words. These are the words that we are familiar with the written language, where they are separated by spaces. For example, they wrote as a letter contains 5 distinct orthographic words. Grammatical words, a word falls into one grammatical word class or another. We have lexemes. This is the set of grammatical words which share the same basic meaning, similar forms. and the same word class. For example, live, lives. Left and living are all members of the verb. Lexeme live, this is the meaning of a word that is employed in dictionaries.
Words can be grouped into 3 families according to their main function and their grammatical behavior: lexical words, function words, and inserts. Lexical words are the main carriers of information in a text or a speech act. They can be subdivided into the following word classes: noun, lexical verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. For example, the words John, tree, jump, run, beautiful, easy, carefully. Of all the word families, lexical words are the most numerous, and their number is growing all the time. In other words, they are members of open classes. They often have a complex internal structure and can be composed of several parts. They can be heads of phrases, they are stressed most in speech, and are generally the words that remain if a sentence is compressed in a newspaper headline. Function words can be categorized in terms of word classes such as prepositions, coordinators, auxiliary verbs, and pronouns. They usually indicate meaning relationships and help us to interpret units containing lexical words by showing how the units are related to each other. Function words belong to closed classes, which have a very limited and fixed membership. For example, English has only 4 coordinators: and, or, but, and nor. Inserts are found mainly in spoken language. They do not form an integral part of a syntactic structure, but tend to be inserted freely in a text. For example, the expressions oh, wow, yeah, no, okay. We have to remember that a closed class contains a limited number of members, and new members cannot be easily added. For example, it is not easy to create a new coordinator or a new pronoun. The membership of open classes is indefinitely large and can be really extensive by users of the language. Lexical classes such as nouns and adjectives are open classes.